Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Premier Pundits podcast. Game week 24 is just around the corner, and of course, it's double bubble fixtures. So we've got resident statman Jason McKenna in the house to help us navigate this fixture minefield. How are you, my friend?
I'm not doing too bad, and hopefully love is in the air, and hopefully there will be something to love about this weekend's double game week fixtures. Exactly. I don't know if that's going to be copyrighted by Gareth Bale or something, but we don't care because it's our hands, and we can do whatever. I mean, you're throwing gang symbols each week. This is another one, exactly. But with game week 24 on the horizon, we do have to talk about the fact that this is a double game week. Then at game week 25, there are confirmed double game week fixtures, but also some likelihood of more. And in game week 26 is looking very likely of lots. Game week 27, there's also a small chance. Game week 28 and in game week 29, there's there is confirmation that there's going to be a hell of a lot of blanks. So this game week period is kind of going to be make or break. 5 game weeks that could make or break your FPL season, and so we want to talk you through it all. And we do have some FPL options, some players that we do like, that we don't like, but just getting into it, we're going to talk through. Actually, I'm going to start with game week 29 and just talk you through actually the confirmed fixtures. So far we have 3 confirmed, which is Brighton versus Newcastle, West Ham versus Arsenal, and Fulham versus Leeds. But there's a high probability that Aston Villa will play Tottenham. Now, we're going to talk about our chips and how we're going to play this for the moment, but already it might be all right to kind of plan towards that. But we've seen this weekend, through this week, haven't we, Ben, that there's been so many injuries. And this is probably what makes this one of the most difficult kind of double game week FA Cup periods in FPL history, because we're kind of vying against an ever-changing schedule and also an ever-changing squad list because of injuries. So kind of looking at this crazy period, Ben, do you have kind of any advice on how to squad manage? Because you kind of want to get some players in for these double game week fixtures, but at the same time, you don't want to transfer them in and then find out a week later that they're injured, that they're not going to be taking part, and they might have a season-ending injury like James Justin.
Yeah, look, there's not much, I always try to stress the importance of maintaining a deep bench during this period. It may feel like a waste having all of that money sitting there, but on occasions like this, it can really save you from maybe starting with 9 or possibly 10 players. So having those players as a backup is something I'd highly recommend. I would also advocate massively against taking any hits. We've seen it with Manchester City. I think, I see it all of the time when people are looking to load up on teams, and then there's that dreaded rotation. Forget about COVID and injury, just rotation alone. It just isn't worth the hassle and the headache for me with regards to that. Try and start on a level playing field and look for those players who are robust, who start week in and week out. If we're looking at West Ham United, and do we really want the likes of the Mikel Antonios in our team? If he starts, how long is he going to play? We've got concerns there. There's maybe question marks over the Jamie Vardys of this world just coming off the back of surgery. So there's players that we know are carrying red flags with them. Season in, season out, and week in and week out. So try to avoid those maybe around this difficult period. It may backfire. It may cause you a little bit of headache and certainly heartache on occasions. But for me, it's about just playing it safe and just chipping away. Don't go for the big ones all the time. Sometimes it's nice just to play conservative, just play the right kind of fantasy, stay in the game, and then there are better opportunities down the line. There's still got to be a lot of twists and turns in this season to come.
So let's turn our attention then to what is the immediate kind of concern for us, and it is this double game week 24. The sides that do have doubles are Manchester City, Everton, Burnley and Fulham. Now, kind of looking at their assets, I think it's kind of a given and a must-own situation with Manchester City treble up, but it's kind of who to own there. So quickly kind of looking at it, I think Cancelo is a great own because he has been rested. Diaz is a little bit more difficult, but Stones might be kind of the player to have if you don't have Diaz in your squad. And then most people seem to have Gundogan, but I think that also Raheem Sterling is a great own as well. But there's also that Maverick pick that we actually talked about on the fan team discussion. Edison might be one to consider if he is on penalties. So what is your perspective there? Because I think Cancelo's fine. Sterling and Gundogan will probably play both games, but there is that worry about Gundogan playing in a deeper role. And then it's the kind of Diaz, Stones, or even Edison kind of discussions there. So who would your three be for this game week, Ben?
I'd happily nail me flag to Diaz. He has trained. He was rested midweek. He had a bit of a stomach problem, little bit of illness there. So for that reason, and Pep likes him. I think he's a cornerstone of that Manchester City defence. Up until this point, he's been, like I say, their mainstay, and it's who plays in and around him. With Laporte, Stones, they're really vying for that other spot, centrally. And I think Pep will quite happily rotate in and out. So I would have concerns over Stones. And I'm still, even though I'm a Cancelo owner, and he offers a lot more than just defensive returns. He can play in several positions. We've seen him playing on the right in recent weeks with Zinchenko playing on the left. We've also seen him deployed in midfield. I still have worries and I still have concerns because he's such an integral part of that team. Does Pep maybe think that, we maybe need to manage him on occasions? Kyle Walker, who's been out, of the Premier League spotlight in recent matches, he returned midweek with a rather fortuitous goal. If he was to come back fully rested and back into the frame, then does he go to the left and Zinchenko move out? You've also got Mendy in there. There may be a spot in that defensive sort of midfield role where, Cancelo has also played in and around. We know Fernandinho is out. Rodrigo has trained, but he did pick up a knock. But if Pep wants to maybe change potentially to a 4-2-3-1, as opposed to a 4-3-3, which he has done in the past, then it could be somebody like Rodrigo and Cancelo in there with Walker. So I'm not really answering your question here because it's a difficult one. For me, the nailed Diaz, Edison, and the other. It would be Cancelo. If I had to go with three in that back line, it would have to be Cancelo.
And what about further up the field? Or do you think Gundogan and Sterling are at risk of rotation?
The problem with Pep is, he talks about how he doesn't rest players. That's what he said 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's not about managing fatigue or anything like that. If you're training, if you're fit, I will play you. Then I think he brought it around where he made 5 or 6 changes in a game week and really messed up a lot of teams. I think Gundogan starts. I think he starts 2. I wouldn't put me a house on Sterling. I just think there's more options in that City team that Pep can bring in. He started, Phil Foden centrally against Liverpool. If Foden was to give up that spot to maybe Gabriel Jesus, then where do you move Sterling to? Do you drop Foden? Do you drop Mahrez? You've got Torres. You've got, you can play Bernardo slightly higher up the pitch. I think it's highly likely Sterling will start both, but I'm certainly not 100%. I think Gundogan is a safer pick.
I have gone with the more unsafer pick with Sterling in my squad this game week, just for confirmation. We will get on to our teams at the end. But I just did want to ask, was there any confirmation on what caused the stomach upset for Diaz? Was it possibly a dodgy kebab, or, a curious curry, or maybe a Chinese that just didn't go down the right way?
It's unconfirmed. There was no spaghetti bolognese involved.
Lasagna gate.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we're not sure, but he has trained. That there had been rumours that he was going to miss out, but it looks to be fine.
Well, that's positive then, as a Diaz, Cancelo, and now Sterling owner. So the other ones that we want to talk about, I think my biggest apart from Manchester City, is Burnley. I think there's a high possibility of clean sheets there. But the interesting thing is I've gone with two defenders from Burnley, but I've also gone with a striker. I've gone with Ashley Barnes. I put him in my team. He's got 2 game weeks there. And why I brought him in is because I was looking at the actual headed chances conceded of Crystal Palace and Fulham. And both of those sides are in the bottom half of the table. And Fulham have kind of let in a lot recently. In fact, over the course of the season, Crystal Palace have let in the most headed chances of any team, especially from set-piece situations. They're not very good at defending those. And then I look at the likes of me, I look at Ashley Barnes, I look at Tarkowski. There could be a chance of a goal there. I know the goals are few and far between for Burnley, but I can see there's a high chance of a clean sheet. And then Barnes is there. He gets 2 games. If he plays both games, he'll get 4 points, hopefully, as long as he doesn't get a yellow card. But that's still more than my other strikers will possibly get. Antonio might be injured, and I don't expect him to play the full 90 if he does play this weekend. So I was happy to kind of see him into my side. I already had those Burnley assets in there for this game week in mind. So really, it's not too much of a risk at the moment. Barnes, I'm thinking of playing my wildcard soon anyway, so it's really just a kind of fine punt to do. What are you thinking about the Burnley, though? Which ones would you be looking at to bring in?
I have been asked about the Burnley backline. See, a lot of people going in with Nick Pope, and even talking about captaining the Burnley keeper. There's also some suggestion around Tarkowski. And I just don't see the value in Tarkowski over the likes of certainly Loughton. I think you're looking at 0.8 more. And neither has had any attacking returns. I think Tarkowski's had 3 bonus points this season, where Loughton's had 2. And that just there's no justification in that 0.8 difference. This is a discussion that we've had on another podcast. And even though I am a Loughton owner, I do have concerns about that Crystal Palace game. I by no means think it's a cakewalk. I don't think that clean sheet is by any stretch. Is it nailed? I know the stat about the Wilfried Zaha. I think it's 2 Crystal Palace victories in 16 games. But for me, records are there to be broken, and it kind of keep on going. He will start with Ayew, I would think. If he pairs him with Mateta, Benteke, or he could even go with Batshuayi. I like Eze still. I think Eze is a decent player. Townsend. I really do think Palace will score at the weekend. I really, really do. I'm confident on that one.
Is it because you got your fingers and toes crossed for your man, the myth, the legend, mate Mateta to score because he is in your squad? Is that partly leading your leanings?
He is in my squad, but whether he'll be anywhere near that starting 11, I'm not sure. He was a punt when he was benched on his first 2 games, and he didn't get anywhere near my team on the match he started. The thing is, I'm not convinced where you get minutes, and it's that one spot between those 3 strikers. He didn't really pull up any trees on his debut, understandable. He's still getting up to speed. And if he does start on the bench, the likelihood is he's just got to get a point. So maybe I'm looking elsewhere, and I will also be looking to activate the wild card soon, and he will be gone.
Oh, poor old Mateta, already seeing the exit. So the final two are Everton and Fulham, and I've left them to last for this double game week 24 discussion, just because I don't like many of their assets at all. They do have two games in this game week, but Everton have a tough game against Manchester City. The one against Fulham is probably all right. There's a bit of an attraction there. But my reluctancy comes from the fact that DCL might be injured and he's so important to that attack. But then also, Everton have scored a little bit more recently. But then if you look at their defensive data, that's taken a tumbling at the same time. They're in the bottom 5 or 6 for XG conceded over the last 4 game weeks since that kind of upturn. They've had 8 big chances conceded, and they've conceded 7 goals as well. This is all bottom half of the table stuff, near the bottom totally of the table. So really, there is this kind of weird kind of upward swing going forward, but then at the back, so I can't justify getting a defensive option. Then I look at their attacking options and I think, well, Digne, Rodriguez, who are they feeding? They do have Richarlison, but Richarlison is not DCL. I don't think he has been as good as him this season, and would I invest that money in him? There is obviously that double chance of returns, but he's a bit more expensive than some other players playing this weekend. And if you compare it to Fulham, I mean, would you be more interested in a Fulham asset who arguably for their price point might offer more value just because they're cheaper and they're probably easier to not play or not have in your squad, and with the wild card on the horizon as well? I don't know. We've had this before, haven't we, Ben? I'm not that kind of warm towards Everton. I've got nothing personal against them. This isn't like our Bamford hate, just because he's personally spited us. But with Everton, I don't like either Everton or Fulham, but maybe you can change my mind.
Maybe if I told you that the Everton record, they're unbeaten against Fulham at home in 27 matches. They've actually won 22 straight games against Fulham at Goodison Park. Fulham, 4 straight draws actually away from Craven Cottage. So I don't know if that maybe, if you're a follower or if you're a believer, then maybe the Premier League gods are telling you that it is an absolutely nailed home banker win. And for me, again, it could just be a 1-week punt. I'm slightly drawn towards, yes, it's Maverick, it's out there, but he does have proven Premier League credentials. It's Josh King. We know
you're reading off my sheet, mate. That's what I was just going to bring up.
Yeah. Well, we know from Carlo Ancelotti, basically he's come out and he said, look, he's in a very strong place to start, because we know DCL is ruled out of this one. There's a possibility that Ancelotti could go with a 4-4-2, as he has done in the absence of DCL in the past. But I'm thinking maybe there's an opportunity there to still stick with a 4-2-3-1. Maybe Richarlison just as that lone attacker, or even Rodriguez or Josh King. What we do know, he's going to play in one of those roles across the front line. And he comes in, he wants to hit the ground running. He wants to make an impression, and he wants to prove that he was worth that investment in the January window. So, he's most definitely on my radar.
He is a punt, but he was the only one that I would really kind of suggest in that Everton lineup. I think, he's got a fairly all right price point. And again, because I'm playing that wild card soon, I don't see the value elsewhere. And just like a final word, I guess you're writing off Fulham, even though that they've got a double game week, no interest in their assets.
Who do I pick really? I mean, maybe Ademola Lookman,
Yeah.
maybe a player who I just like to watch. I think he's a decent prospect. He's obviously coming up against his former team as well. So, any player that's going to the former stomping ground will want to make an impression against those employers. So that's a little bit of an added incentive for him. But really, look, it's hard to make a case for Fulham. They have suffered a little bit of a downturn in recent fixtures, and maybe they're just getting slightly cut adrift now. And in one sense, it's make or break for Fulham and Scott Parker. They need to start picking up points. It could be an open game. This might be a game, for neither defence. This might be where it could be a 2-2, a 3-2, or even a 4-3, 4-2. So I think it might be a decent game to watch.
Yeah, I'll definitely be watching with eager interest, but without any assets in it, I hope. Obviously, Fulham do play Burnley. I'll have assets in that one, but not in the Everton game. I can just kind of sit back and relax. But in terms of it, we're going to spend the last few minutes talking about our tactics for this game week 24 to 29 period. So looking at this schedule, and I will bring up on screen, full credit goes to Ben Crellin. I'm sure you'll back me up here. He's the other big Ben in the FPL community that you have to follow. And he does incredible work with these data sheets. He informs people with these kind of likelihoods here. And what the interesting thing is the brown fixtures in game week 26. Some people are calling them gold, but I like brown because you might shit your pants if you don't have people in the game week there. So in terms of it, we look at double game week 24. That's all confirmed. Now, game week 25, you're looking at it, and there is a confirmed double game week for Southampton and Leeds. I think I've got fair coverage with Bamford. I'm looking to bring in Rafinha then, but maybe nothing else. Maybe nothing too much, because again, Southampton have Chelsea and Leeds. I fancy Leeds much more than Southampton. I think they've got quite a few problems there. And then the thing is, it's a waiting game until game week 25, because we still don't know if those unlikely double game weeks, the ones with 1 to 25% chance in blue, will go ahead. But the game week 26 is the tasty one, and that is why a wild card in game week 25 might be good, because then you can play a bench boost in game week 26, but also it gives you that facility to capitalise if they are confirmed for some game week 27 double game week fixtures, and possibly 28. Hopefully it will all become clear by then. But also by playing the wild card now, you can kind of get your squad together for that hefty end to the season, get rid of some of those people that are injured. As I said there, you can play the bench boost, but also then it allows you to play, if you do still have it, that free hit in 29 because of those 4 fixtures that are played that game week. So looking at that, Ben, do you kind of like that strategy? Is that something that you'll be playing? And do you have any sort of extra additions to the information that I'm giving there?
You echoing my sentiments exactly. I've had a couple of people suggest that they may not wildcard until after game week 30, that they're fairly happy with their squad now, and they're prepared to take 1 or 2 hits, during the interim, to maybe maximise any returns over those double game weeks. But for people like me, who, I'm not necessarily, I'm not satisfied with the squad that I've currently got. I am carrying a little bit of deadwood. I do want to freshen things up for that run-in. And like I say, I see this as the last big opportunity to score some real points. Like I say, I've got all my chips intact. I've got my wild card intact, and it's time to, time to bring home the bacon and strike, hit that top 1 million. That's my realistic goal for now.
Bring home the bacon for the dinnery, I guess. That's the good stuff. So I'm glad that we've got a bit of an agreement there. I'm hopeful that that's kind of explained it to everybody tuning in as well. And as I said there, I've put it up on screen, but please do give Ben Crellin the credit where it deserves. Give him a like, give him a follow, because he does amazing work, and it would be unfair for us not to give credit where credit is due. But for now...
Crellin where Crellin's due.
Exactly. You're just a wordsmith, Ben. We had Din Din the other day in terms of boxing. Now we got Crellin where Crellin is due. And what was it? You call me Matata, I call it Matata. That was absolutely golden. I mean, this is why you have to say subscribe to us as well, because there are these golden moments with Ben. Sometimes I do have a moment or two there as well, but
Julio.
exactly I might whip out another accent and then you might miss out on it. But for now, I think that's a good update for this game week 24 period. We've kind of concentrated on the big issue, which is sorting out your teams. But as always, as we wrap up, I wish you the best of luck, and a reminder to stay subscribed as well, because we do have the Fantasy Doctor. Dr. Raj gave us a very important, urgent update yesterday with all the injury news, especially regarding James Justin. But he is always here to answer your questions and give you good updates. Then we do have what came out yesterday, the first Tactic Thursday, which I'm really excited about. I think it's a good series that will be happening every so often. We're going to try and keep it at bi-weekly on Thursdays, but of course we do have a lot of stuff to do, and we have the fan team content and this FPL content as well. So make sure to like, subscribe and share with friends. But for now, for always, good luck with your teams, and hopefully we get a bit of luck as well.
I mean, how do I follow that, Jason? I mean, everything that he said, there's lots of fantastic content. And by the way, if you haven't seen Tactic Thursday podcast yet, I mean, I highly recommend. Blown away by not just the discussion points, but there's some great graphics thrown in there as well. So there's a lot of take homes, from that podcast. So it really is worth just sitting down and investing some time and having a listen. And that's not me just blowing smoke up Jason's backside. That's just, I really enjoyed it. So it was new. I didn't know what to expect, and yes, like I say, I've got some other interesting guests that I've hopefully lined up for the next week or so, because injuries are so prominent at the moment. We're going to try and bring in some other expert opinions, as well as the fantasy doc, who is on the bat phone constantly preparing to give us updates and further insights behind the curtains. But for now, that is me, that is us, that is the pundits done ahead of the double game week 24. So good luck, everyone. Hope it's a green arrow and it's the finger salute.
I love that.